All right, the full spoilers have now released, and we finally know why Road kidnapped the Straw Hat Pirates. And we also know why he doesn't like working under Luffy. Turns out, it is so damn simple. So, just like how I am racist towards the Giants, Road is a kindred spirit because he's racist towards humans. He said, Hardin, that idiot, why would he become a subordinate of a puny human? Because I'm now a subordinate of that puny human. So yes, it turns out that he's just discriminating against Luffy because he's small. He doesn't think he has any strength. He has pride as an Elbaf warrior. It is as simple as that. As far as why the Thousand Sunny crew ended up here, turns out it's purely coincidental. Road was not after these guys whatsoever. His crow literally just flew across the seas of Elbaf, saw that the Thousand Sunny got hit by sleeping gas, that is a natural occurrence, I guess, off the coast of Elbaf. It picked him up, and it brought them back here to Road. That is it. They were not targeted, nothing. Road just literally woke up one day, and the Yonko crew was asleep at his doorstep. So, because of that, he recognized them and he's like, hey, these guys would be a perfect fit for my dollhouse, which is actually what he calls it, right? He doesn't call it a toy box, a diorama. He's like, my dolls, like these guys are perfect for him. So he starts dressing them up and, he is the one who changes Nami's clothes all the way through. He gets her naked, puts on the Elbaf attire, and then tosses them in the cage. The Straw Hats apparently almost wake up during this process, but Road, I guess, just carries sleeping gas in his pocket because when they're about to wake up, he just hits them one more time to put them out completely. So it's kind of crazy that this is the case. There's no real intention behind this. They weren't targeted. Road just really got lucky or unlucky in a way. And I say unlucky because obviously the Straw Hat crew are running rampant in his town. Road is chasing them all this chapter, and the Straw Hats are just trying to make it to the end of this diorama so that they can escape this area. One thing that I found absolutely hilarious is that Road is talking a lot in this chapter, but at no point do any of the Straw Hat pirates really acknowledge him. He's just kind of talking like, you're gonna remain missing forever in my dollhouse. You're gonna be under my command and my rule. And it's like, brother, we don't even know who you are. Like, he mentions that he's a part of the new Giant Warrior Pirates, but, according to the full spoilers, nobody really says anything in regards to that. They're like, whatever. Hey, Nami, can I go fight this guy now? Like, Sanji really wants to put this guy in the dirt because obviously he saw Nami naked, but because of Usopp, they don't want to fight him right away. Nami even has to kind of ask for permission, saying, hey, Usopp, you talked about not fighting earlier, but, when it comes to natural disasters like lightning, for example, like can't avoid it, right? And then Usopp's like, yeah, you're not wrong, Nami. So because of that, Nami is the one who ends up landing the final and first blow against Road the Sun God, which I gotta say it right here, but I don't think that Road is surviving it. I really don't. I mean, this guy, hey, we don't know much about him. Maybe he's still a heavy hitter. Maybe next chapter he's gonna get back up and fight him again. But he doesn't seem all that powerful. It looks like he's one of those guys that just kind of boasts his size and that's pretty much it. He has nothing behind it. No muscle, no real abilities. He's just big. That's all it is. So yeah, Nami hits him with Zeus, and that is when they do break out of the diorama, and we don't know where they're at yet. Oda ends it on an ambiguous note. Usopp, of course, is wishing that Elbaf is behind the wall. Luffy punches it, and then Luffy smiles. What does that mean? Does this mean that they are in Elbaf because Luffy smiled? We don't know, because we do have to remember that Luffy smiles at just about anything and everything. Like, for example, if there was a plate of meat on the other side of that wall, Luffy would be grinning from ear to ear, right? So I don't take Luffy's smile as an indication of them being in Elbaf, but them being in Elbaf does make a lot of sense. Because, like I said, it seems like Road was at home when the Straw Hats got delivered to his doorstep. And then, of course, there is the fact that Mugen the Crow picked them up nearby Elbaf in the Sleeping Mist area. So it just kind of makes sense that this is what it is. They could also be on the Naglfar or the Nagfar, which is Hardin's ship, but we don't really have too much context in regards to that yet. But either way, I think we are still nearby Elbaf at the very least. And now I'm just kind of curious. Now that Road is pretty much out of the picture, I do wonder if he's a part of the new giant warrior pirates still, because while he was a trash-talking Harden in this chapter, he doesn't say anything about quitting the new giant warrior pirates, so maybe he's still a part of them, and then we break through this wall and we actually see Harden. I think that is a real possibility, right? You know, maybe we break it, and then we see Garrett, we see Stenson, Goldberg, and Harden, and they're like, wait, Captain? You know, like, Luffy, what are you doing here? And then they're like, oh, this weirdo, like, was dressing us up and playing dolls with us, right? I think that's gonna be the case. And of course, when it comes to Road, I genuinely don't think he knows that Luffy is the sun god yet. I feel like once he learns that fact, his whole tune is going to change, right? Because he never mentions the sun god in this chapter, according to the spoilers. So yeah, I think that he will become an avid follower of the Straw Hat Pirates moving forward. Now that he's been defeated by the puny humans that he hates, I think he's going to switch up. Outside of that, we did get one other really big thing in this chapter. And this has to do, kind of, with the mistakes of 1127. So, in this chapter, Luffy says he's going to open up a hole in the wall. And what he uses is a combination of his human form, it's kind of weird to call it human form, but like his base form and Gear 4th. Luffy's body stays the same, but only his arm, his left arm, sorry, I got the wrong arm out. His left arm turns Gear 4th and it smashes through. So yes, Luffy can now mix in different gears into his body without transforming entirely, which is massive, and it also makes a lot of sense. And the reason why it's massive is because it does repurpose Gear 3rd, 4th, and 2nd and make them more usable in day-to-day combat. With this new development, Luffy could just whip it out at any time, and it's just convenient, right? It saves energy. He doesn't have to go through the whole song and dance of biting his thumb, right? So I think this is perfect. And when you really think about it, it makes sense because Luffy is a Zoan Devil Fruit user. He's not a Paramecia. Gear 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th don't exist. They're not real things. Like, Luffy has his hybrid form, partial transformation, and his awakening, right? But he just doesn't know that. So the way Luffy's utilizing his Devil Fruit in this chapter is more akin to a standard Zoan Devil Fruit user. It's like if Rob Lucci were to transform just his arm into a leopard, for example, right? Like, that's how this is. And I think that is phenomenal, and that's great. Because Luffy still thinks he has a Paramecia, but in reality, he is mastering his Zoan Devil Fruit, which is what he needs to do to fight, you know, opponents later on, right? That is a key thing. You gotta, like, learn it to some extent, and that's what's happening. But outside of that, though, that is pretty much the chapter. It's very straightforward. You know, Road doesn't explain too much about the situation. Oda's kind of keeping us in the dark right now. And yeah, man, what a hell of a reveal. I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. When I think about Road being the kidnapper and the sun god, it does bring a smile to my face because it's so silly, dude. Come on, Road? He lost in one hit. The only reason he was able to chase us last chapter and this chapter is because Usopp didn't want to hurt giants outright because we might go to Elbaf and because they might be friendly and this might all be a misunderstanding. But of course, we had to lay the hurt on him. He saw Nami naked. We can't let that slide. And of course, he is trying to capture us, which I gotta say, he tries to use his staff as an iron net to capture the Straw Hats, and we get this great, apparently, like Zoro and Sanji team up, which I think is awesome. You know, Sanji and Zoro, whenever they come together to do an attack or stop something, it's always pretty cool. And this chapter really does strike me as something out of the pre-time skip era, right? It's just a lot of fun, and honestly, that is what One Piece is all about. Also, one last thing before we end off, we get a name for the rabbit that Luffy killed, and we see his goddamn skeleton in this chapter. So the sun god, or Road, when he walks into the diorama, he sees the ear god's skeleton, and he says, Glutto Bunny. So yeah, it's a gluttonous bunny that goes around eating meat or eating people. And yeah, I mean, Luffy just killed this guy off screen. I think it's kind of funny that we did this, right? It just shows that Oda's just laughing at it. Like, we're getting names for characters who are completely dead and are never coming back. Oh yeah, one more thing that this chapter does clear up is why, when we saw the Sun God last chapter, he was using samurai-esque words. So he walked into the room, and of course Luffy was fighting the snake, and then Zoro was fighting the crow, and the guy said, "My beloved temple," but he said it like how a Wano samurai would. I thought there was some deep meaning there, but no, it turns out this guy's just a nerd. Through and through, he is just an otaku. And it's like, bruh. Bruh. So yeah, throughout this whole chapter, right on the full spoiler leaker, he says that the entire chapter, this guy just uses Wano Kuni samurai verbiage. And I'm like, all right. I mean, he even gave the Straw Hats Wano-esque nicknames. Luffy Tasso, Zoro Tasso, Nami Tasso. It's like, bro, what is going on with this guy? Come on. This guy, out of everybody, he's the one who captured us? It's hilarious. It really is. So now that we're possibly going to Elbaf, now that we're going to meet more giants after Road, I do wonder if his mindset isn't the minority, right? I wouldn't be shocked if we go to Elbaf and we see a lot of people who dislike humans, a lot of people who are racist. They're like, oh, the Straw Hats? These insects? Like, look at this guy, you know? I feel like that will be a common sentiment, and that will be something that Luffy and the gang will have to overcome. I think this could be where Usopp shines even, right? People could look at Usopp and say, wait, you're a god? Dude, you're like 2 feet tall, right? Like, you're this big and you call yourself a god? I could see that being Usopp's growth. Maybe he proves himself, rises to the occasion. And then, of course, when it comes to Luffy and the boys, I mean, hey, Luffy's a god, come on. But yeah, with that being said though, guys, again, I would love to hear what you have to say about the full spoilers down below. Let me know all your thoughts. Do you like this chapter? Do you not like it? How do you feel about the adventure? What do you think about the Road reveal? Now that we've had an entire day to process it, I would love to hear all those thoughts down below. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Signing out.